All right, guys, so we got to talk about a pretty crazy situation that happened out in Panama involving an American living in Panama, apparently, deciding to shoot and kill two climate change / environmental / anti-government corruption protesters that were blocking traffic. Now, one of the reasons why I'm covering this story is because I really hate to see this happen. Okay, this is not something to celebrate. This is something that we need to talk about because these climate activists are basically disrupting societies across the globe. Okay, it's not just happening here in the United States, it's happening in Europe, it's happening everywhere. And the crazy part is that because of intersectionality, you have a mix of climate activists and also pro-Palestine activists. Their protests have become one and the same because they're all oppressed, and anybody that is oppressed, aka anybody that's not a straight white Christian male, they all come together and they protest at the same time because apparently they all have the same struggle. Okay, you have the pro-Palestinian activists taking over Black Rock. You got the climate activists taking over Fed meetings with Jerome Powell.
Black Rock, you can hide! Black Rock, you can hide! We charge you with genocide! We charge you with genocide! Black Rock, you can hide! Black Rock, you can hide! We charge you with genocide! We charge you with genocide! Black Rock, you can hide! Black Rock, you can hide!
Expect that the process of getting inflation sustainably down to 2% has a long way to go. The labor market remains tight, although improvements in labor supply and a gradual easing in demand continue to move it into better balance. GDP growth in the third quarter was quite strong, but like most forecasters, we expect growth to moderate in coming quarters. Of course.
Jerome Powell, by refusing to treat climate change like a systemic risk,
thank you.
You are putting us at
Thank you very much.
disaster.
Thank you very much.
Climate change will threaten.
Thank you. Just close the fucking door. Close the door.
I've covered plenty of stories like this in the past where you have people who decide that it's a good idea to block a major highway or a road in protest of the climate, the environment, or whatever they're protesting, and it's just simply not a good idea. It's not a good idea, and what happens is that people get upset, and unfortunately, things like this are bound to happen eventually because people do hate not being able to get where they want to go. And again, blocking traffic is something, in my opinion, that's extremely dangerous. It is something that we should not be celebrating. It should not be tolerated. But again, we should not tolerate violence towards these individuals as well, too, where you're talking about somebody losing their life. So without further ado, I actually want to go ahead and play the video leading up to the shooting, as the man involved actually went up to the protesters, okay, and he took out his gun and then he opened fire after a brief exchange with some of the protesters. So I'm going to go ahead and play what led up to this. But before we get into it, we have to have a word from the sponsor of this video, Noble Gold. Chances are you've been here before. The chaos in the markets, oil, stocks, just when you thought it was safe and interest rates were rising, new threats are coming out of nowhere. Tensions are boiling from Asia to Europe, and adaptation is the key to securing your wealth. You may not have considered gold before. It's not speculation, but insurance. And right now, you need some insurance. Noble Gold Investments has been protecting investors from disaster for years with precious metals. So if you're worried, it might be time to take a fresh look at gold and silver. Gold is a proven shield for your portfolio and a volatility balance against uncertainty. If it helps, Noble Gold Investments is offering a free 5-ounce America the Beautiful coin with its new IRAs this month. If you open your Noble Gold Investments IRA or roll over your 401k, you can claim your coin today. Remember, crisis brews, portfolios waver, and gold insulates. Secure yourself against threats today. Go to noblegoldinvestments.com. That is noblegoldinvestments.com, the only gold company I trust. And just remember, there's a risk with every investment, and there's no guarantee of any kind.
¡Viva Panamá!
Nuestro profesor, un solo educador, un solo educador, un educador luchando, un educador luchando.
¡Eso es un delito! ¡Usted es panameño!
¡Ey! ¡Ese es una mala de haberlo sacado y otra vez!
¡Tómale foto! ¡Tómale foto! ¡Eso es un delito! ¡Usted es panameño!
¡Ey! ¡Ese es una mala de haberlo sacado y otra vez!
¡Llama a la policía! ¡Llama a la policía! ¿Por qué no dispara? Pues nos va a tener que matar a todos. Esto es una... Nadie está...
Yeah, so you seen that, you heard that, okay? So again, this guy got pissed off because the climate activists were blocking the road. He gets out of his vehicle, he goes up to them, he exchanges words. We're going to read a little bit more about it. And then he just shoots two people, and then he gets arrested. Now, again, I'm going to talk a little bit more about this, but I want to give you guys more background in regards to what's going on here, because it's pretty crazy what's going on out there right now. Tensions have been running high across Panama for the past 3 weeks as groups of protesters have gathered to put the country at a near standstill in retaliation for plans to keep a copper mine open in the heart of a jungle. Thousands of demonstrators have taken to roads to set up blockades, causing the country to grind to a halt. The obstructions have led to 80 million in daily losses to businesses, according to Panama's Association of Company Executives, and schools were forced to close for over a week, Reuters said. Yeah, so again, these protests are so disruptive that Panama is losing $80 million a day for their businesses. Now, apparently, there are restaurants that can't get food. There are places that can't get resources, literally because the demonstrators, the protesters, are blocking all the roads, okay? And again, this is basically causing the country to go into chaos. Now, Panama, relative to most Latin America or Central America or South America countries, is pretty stable, right? It's a pretty stable country. There's a lot of expats that move to Panama. You know, it's pretty safe for the most part. But this is the type of unrest that we haven't seen in a long time. But, you know, it's one of those things that's getting out of control. Around 15,000 medical appointments have also been missed since the protests began, and on Tuesday, the scene turned deadly when an elderly man was caught on camera, allegedly fatally shooting two men in full view of witnesses. The victims, both teachers, were involved in a protest blocking traffic on Highway 55 miles west of Panama City. Protests have been underway for more than 3 weeks against the government's decision to sign a deal to restart Central America's biggest open pit copper mine for at least 20 more years. As part of the protest, a demonstration occupied a highway on Tuesday. Traffic started to build up, and according to reports, the suspected shooter, Kenneth Darlington, 77, was one of the people who became stuck in their vehicle. The protest attracted a group of photographers and TV reporters to the site of the traffic block where protesters had lined up the middle of the highway with tires, flags, tree branches, and stones to stop the cars. According to local outlets, the suspected shooter was carrying out several errands that day when he was stopped by the protest. Panama TV network TVN reported they were able to access the suspect's court hearing on Wednesday for a few minutes. They said that in court, protesters accused Mr. Darlington of allegedly telling his companion, quote, "This ends here," before leaving his vehicle and storming up the highway towards the protesters. Widely circulated video footage shows Mr. Darlington arguing with a group of men from the protest. He allegedly asked who the leaders of the campaigners were, to which the men replied that there were none. Quote, "I don't want to talk to women. I want to talk to men," he replied, according to TVN. While he was confronting the protesters, the suspect was accused of removing handgun from his pocket as he started to remove the blockades on the road. Local outlets say one of the protesters can be heard saying in the footage, quote, "Why don't you shoot?" while others shouted, "Are you going to kill someone?" Mr. Darlington allegedly replied, quote, "Do you want to be the first?" In the footage, two men in black shirts and one in a red shirt came over to talk to the suspect. The court reportedly heard that the three men had approached Mr. Darlington to try to defuse the situation. Yeah, so again, we kind of get the gist of, kind of what happened here. I mean, the guy did it, is on camera. He's, admitting to it. Apparently, he tried to go back to his car. He tried to leave. He told his girlfriend to come with him. His girlfriend said, "No, we're not leaving." And called the police. And the police got there. They stopped the car. I guess he was trying to leave. They seized the weapon, arrested him, and took him into police custody, right? Which, again, is a very sad situation. It's something that you really hate to see. But again, this is why, I advocate for government to not allow people to protest in the street, right? They should not allow people to protest in the street, because when people protest in the street like this, conflict happens, right? In my opinion, I think that protesting in the street is almost like holding people hostage, right? It's almost like kidnapping, because you can't go anywhere. You're in a car, you're in a vehicle, and especially if you're on a congested highway, you can't turn around. You can't do anything. So you just have to sit there. And, there could be an emergency. There could be something else going on. There could be, somebody could be sick. Somebody could be dying. But these activists don't care. They literally just sit in the middle of the road. And then when something happens, people want to cry foul and want to get upset about it, which, again, I'm not condoning. But in my opinion, I think there are ways that you can protest without inconveniencing people's lives. Okay, if your issue is with the government, if your issue is with government corruption, then I don't know, protest at a government building. Okay, take it to town hall. Okay, don't be in the road, but take it to town hall, take it to the Capitol. Again, not in the road, but take it to a place where, you can be heard, you can voice your concerns without inconveniencing everybody else, because inconveniencing other people, that's not going to change the situation. Okay, and is also not going to get people on board with you, right? It's actually going to create more resentment, because there are people that can't run their businesses. They cannot, operate their daily lives. They can't go to the hospital. They can't, perform essential activities because of these protests, okay? And that is why I think that more so than anything, when you look at a situation like this, you got to look at the government and say, well, why didn't the police clear these protesters out? Why are the police even allowing the protesters to block the highway in the first place? They should have been cleared out, okay? Should have been arrested for doing it. If you arrest people for doing this type of stuff, then you don't have to worry about them putting themselves in harm's way, where you have some guy that decides to take matters into his own hands and does something like this. Again, I'm not excusing the behavior. It was wrong for him to do that, but I'm just saying the authorities could have prevented this from happening by simply saving the climate protesters from people who basically get fed up with their form of resistance, their form of protest, and retaliating in the wrong way. So, again, it's a sad situation, but it's one of those things. This is why I advocate for these protesters to not do this in the road. Do not inconvenience people's lives like this, because ultimately what ends up happening is that, you know, somebody snaps, people get hurt, people lose their lives, and that's not something that you really want to see. So, hey, let me know what you guys think. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Most importantly, share a Black conservative perspective. Peace.